Hello and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be at across the interwebs. That's pretty fancy the way that I'm doing that. I sound like an announcer. Hey, it's the CEO 1440 show, the mortgage broker builder show, where we talk about all things mortgage, real estate, things to help you maximize your 1,440 minutes every single day. And in the process, hopefully live a great life, sell some loans, sell some homes, and just do good for yourself. Got a super excited guest here. Somebody they came into my world. I was speaking at a thing. They spoke after me. I watched it. And I was like, holy crap. This girl is really good. She's smart. I like her. We've made a connection. We've reached out. We've talked. She is the founder of Beyond the Method. I want to make sure I didn't mess that up. Michelle Berman. She's out there. She's on Instagram. She does a lot of stuff across social media, but is not just somebody that's out there to get you likes. It's actually somebody that's out there to get you business and help you grow your business and do things that actually matter, like closing loans and selling homes. So Michelle, welcome to the show. That was my choppy intro, but welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, John. It's been fun to get to know you, even though it hasn't been long, but it's been a really powerful short time of knowing you. So that's always the right kind of friendship I feel like to have. And I'm eager and excited to see where our relationship goes. But thanks for having me on your show.
No, for sure. And I kind of feel the same way. You run across people, and you know this as well as I do. And I think everybody listening, the world that we're in today is full of pretenders, right? There's life coaches that are 20. There's marriage counselors that have never been married. There's people that have 0 kids giving advice about kids. There's people that have never been in a fight talking about fighting, like all kinds of craziness. So you're out there, you're in the mix. And anytime I see somebody that's kind of authentic and I'm like, they kind of pass that initial sniff test. However, it's hard to smell via the internet, but they pass that initial test. I'm like, I need to know more about this person, because the older I get, the more I realize how little I know and that there are people out there that can help me move a lot faster. So that kind of all said, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? You're a collegiate swimmer, right? Which just tells you something about her. In order to do that and to swim, and she swam at a Big Ten school. So kudos to the Big Ten. Was not in the Big Ten at the time. But it takes a certain amount of just gur and grit to get there to begin with. So that's kind of where I start to assess character, going all the way back to probably some early mornings as like a 9-year-old, swimming laps in a pool. So tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, why you're here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I still smell the chlorine. I probably always will. 20 plus years of swimming competitively. I grew up swimming in SoCal and then ended up at Rutgers out in New Jersey for all 4 years of my college experience. And, you know, the best and fastest way I can introduce myself is I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm someone who's lived life just like everybody else. But I really think that the superpower secret weapon, who am I, that is really, really important to share is I just feel like I'm an incredibly resilient human, in the sense of I don't really understand what it means to give up. I don't think that that's ever an option. That's just how I was raised. And so fast forward to 2014, I had semi-retired from the sport of swimming after a very an amazing career, 22 total years of being, you know, a competitive swimmer overall. I started on a very local club team, but became a registered USA swimming member at the age of 4, then retired at 23, and then ended up still swimming until I was closer to 26. So I spent a lot of time in the pool, swam the mile. So for anyone who's familiar with the sport of swimming, I swam the longest distance that you could possibly swim on the program, which means I was first in and last out, right? First in for every practice, last out. All the sprinters would get in and be out way before I was. And there's so much involved in that. There's so much that I've learned by being an athlete, not just as a swimmer, but I ended up becoming a competitive CrossFitter for several years after retiring from swimming. Met my husband when I was competitively weightlifting for a short stint of about 2 years. And then I am currently training for half marathons. And then we'll eventually be switching gears probably to the road marathon to qualify for Boston. But my main goal right now is to really crush the half marathon distance for a long time before I switch gears. So let's just say I love fitness, right? We'll say that. But who am I and what do I do? I have the privilege of being able to really serve the mortgage and real estate industry in a really unique way. So my goal, my job, if you will, is to teach real estate and mortgage professionals how to understand the power of leverage to create opportunity through social. So leverage, if you understand the word or know what the definition of the word is, it's in my mind, the easiest way to understand it is it's your ability to build a bridge between someone that you already have a relationship with and someone that you don't, right? How can you look at a social platform? How can you strategically, to use your words, John, how can you create strategic alliances that can move your needle? And the biggest thing with that is you have to be able to see it and you have to be able to listen when it's happening or when the opportunity presents itself. So being able to prospect through social is your ability to produce content that makes people want to talk to you. And secondly, your ability to actively outbound reach people that need to hear from you. And doing that through the art of connection and getting to those relationships through leverage. Now, what do I do specifically? I'm a social media prospecting coach, right? And it's really clear or should be hopefully clear to people what the difference is, but I still want to address that quickly. The key difference between the two, social media coaching is focused on vanity, right? We help you look good. We want you to grow an audience. We want you to focus on how many likes am I getting, video views, all of that. A social media prospecting coach, which is what I really am to my core, is I am the person that teaches you how to utilize what you already have. Right. So instead of being on this, I have to go chase more and more and more, which is exhausting for anybody. Let's just be honest. My job is to teach you how to take what you already have and turn it into a revenue generator for your business. So one is about influence. The other one is about income. Right. So we have to stop chasing the follower count. We have to start creating clients because the reality is 99% of you that are watching this, and I'm saying 99 because I don't want to say 100 because it's a little all inclusive. But 99% of you listening to this do not need more likes. You need more clients, right? Period. So are you trying to use social to create attention or are you trying to use it to get business? And that's really where I come in. The truth really is that we serve totally different purposes. If you're a social media coach versus me being a social media prospecting coach. But both are super important. And I don't want to miss or have anybody miss me saying that. You certainly need to have someone that can help you with both. My goal is to get you through the coaching side and into the prospecting side as fast as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something, right? So a couple of years ago, I kind of changed over from what I was doing into this whole consulting space where I'm trying to help people. And social media became something that I had to do.
Mm.
Right. And then you chased likes, right? It was like, that's what I thought you needed. I've now kind of come to the conclusion. I like to say that social media, when you begin doing it, you get 5 L's is what you're trying to do. The first one is you feel like a loser. Then you go out and you chase likes. Hopefully, if you do some likes, laughs, and some learning, it'll turn to leads and that ultimately turns to loans. Yet we spend so much time chasing likes where it gets messed up. And it's something I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I know this very little, yet probably know it better than most. And I think that too many people care what some 13-year-old girl in China thinks about your TikTok video than an actual person that will buy your product. So I'm always trying to take things away and learn. And people like you are immensely valuable in sharing that knowledge. So I think that is great. And there is a massive difference between the two. And of the clients I work with, I see people that have thousands of followers on their Instagram. They post multiple reels every single day, different things. And yet they get one lead a month from their 7,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely doing something wrong. And I think that's where you come in, like you fix that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about content visibility or being too focused on content visibility rather than the conversion strategy, meaning you're going into the effort of creating content with the intention of, if I produce this piece of content, I'm going to get business out of it. That's how you're thinking about it, which is one, misleading, right? A larger audience does not create or honestly have the thought of having a larger audience is counterintuitive, right? And also counterproductive because, hey, if I get more and more followers, then that's going to make me feel better. There's my pat on my back. But it's really misleading because if I look at your platform and I say, oh, great, cool, you have 7,000 followers. But to your point, that loan officer that is getting one lead a month off of their 7,000, to me, he or she never needs another follower a day in their life. What they do need is they need to figure out how to actually connect and create relationships with those that they already have, which then in turn creates sort of that spiral of this person leads me to this person, leads me to this person. So what I'll say is that people are going into producing content with the wrong mindset. They're focused on how good does this look? How much better is this video doing than this video? Oh my gosh, look, I got 10,000 views. But the reality of it is if you're not using Instagram or social in general to get paid by how many views you're getting, right? On Instagram, we have, it's like $100 per, I think it's $100 per 100,000 views, something like that. So whatever the metric of conversion is, it doesn't matter. But the point is if you're using Instagram to make money off of your reels, cool, focus on the vanity. But nobody here is doing that. Nobody on here is getting on Instagram with the intention of, I want to be a social influencer. They are getting on Instagram. They are getting on Facebook. They are getting on LinkedIn. They're getting on all these social platforms with the intention of, well, I know I need to grow my business. But here's the thing, John, they're not doing the things that they need to then be doing to actually get the business when they do it. Then that's the real difference is you're on this content hamster wheel and you're just like pumping out so much content and you feel good. But again, it's not producing any ROI because you're not actually doing the revenue generating activities that you need to.
So, no, I think that everything that you're saying is 100% spot on. And it just has me churning in my head. Essentially, I'm somebody that looks at all of the negative. Like very rarely do I ever look at the good things in my life. I look at the bad things and say, how can I fix them to turn them into good things? Like it's just where I live. So I'm probably not grateful enough. But as you say that, I start looking at what areas inside of my stuff can I go out and solve? And there's, I think it's called like the Solomon principle. You ever heard of this?
I haven't, no.
So King Solomon was like a great sage old man, rich, loaded, had all kinds of things. People would come to him for advice. They would go to King Solomon. And Alex Hormozi talks about this, and I'm sure somebody else, but they would go to King Solomon for advice, and King Solomon would give them advice. Yet he was like an adulterer, like his whole everything was in shambles, but he was good at giving advice. So I'm like trying to look at that from a King Solomon standpoint. I give people advice all the time about what they should do, but like I need to look at my own stuff and look at how I'm running my own business and what I'm doing on the social media to really evaluate it, or hire someone like you that's a King Solomon that can come from the outside and tell me all the things that I need to do, because we're terrible at identifying our own weaknesses. So yeah. I think the
main shift, right? Just to put it super simply, the main shift is you have to go from this content obsession to conversion optimization, right? Meaning like, am I truly utilizing what I have and am I optimizing what's already in front of me? And I'm not a nerd for stats. Like I'm not a numbers person by any means. I like knowing the numbers, but I'm not the person that's going to know every single stat about every single thing. But there is two big ones that have come to mind lately. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article about this. So anyone who wants to go read it, feel free to go. I just posted it a few days ago. But there was this study that was done about companies, like large corporate investment type companies, where those that invested in social selling strategy, which is specifically, like, to be very clear about what that means targeted outbound prospecting through social media, saw a 20 to 25% increase in sales, as opposed to those that are solely focused on content marketing. So in other words, right, audiences don't pay the bills, clients do. So we have to do a better job at leaning into the existing audience that we already have, going deeper, not wider, right? Everyone has heard that, but you have to go deeper, not wider, with the people that you already have on your platform. If you have 300 followers, none of you are doing 300 loans a year, right? That are listening to this. Maybe you are. And if you are, that's incredible, right? But none of you are likely doing that many loans. Or I should say 300 loans. I should maybe say 300 million is probably a better number to say, right? 300 loans. I know a handful now that I'm saying that out loud that are doing that. But let's just say if your goal is to be doing more and you have 300 people that are following you on social, why are you focused on going and getting number 301, 302, 303 when you already have all of the business you likely need sitting right there? Now, this is an important thing, and this is really kind of a secret, I guess, in a way. I'm giving you like a golden nugget from Michelle's brain here, but when you look at someone's profile, and I did this on LinkedIn actually just this morning, and I'm not a big LinkedIn person, but I am spending more time on it. My coach has really been pushing the hammer there for me. But I was on LinkedIn this morning. I saw a gentleman that posted something. I know of him. I've heard of him, but there were two people that commented on that post in particular that I know very well. And I was thinking to myself, like, how do I not know this person like one-on-one that posted this article, even though these two other people that have commented on it, I know them really well, like talk to them once a week at least. And so that's where my brain was like, oh my gosh, Michelle, opportunity, right? But what do I have there? I have leverage. Why? Why do I have leverage? Because I already have a relationship with two people that commented on that piece of content that are really, really good friends of mine. So what does that mean? How do I have leverage? Because one, I know them, but two, I now get to name drop them. When I send a message to that individual that I know of but don't know, I get to name drop those two people that commented on that and say, hey, I'm actually really close with these two people. I'm shocked that you and I haven't met personally. I would love to jump on a call and see if there's some synergy between the two of us to see if there's something you've got going on or something that I've got going on that we could help support each other with. Right. So we're leading with this value proposition, but we're also doing it in a way that's not focused on, hey, I want to make money. Instead, it's focused on, hey, I know those people, you know those people. How do you and I not know each other? And then it's the easiest relationship to build. But here's the thing. And somebody asked me this the other day. They're like, well, Michelle, but like, how does your brain know to do that? And I said, really, it comes down to slowing down and taking 10 minutes to look at LinkedIn, to look at Instagram, see what other people are posting. And then, for example, a mutual friend of ours, Jonathan Haddad, right, the current CEO of AIM, when he posts something, the first thing that I typically do is I'll see who he posts with. Do I know the person that he just posted with? If I do, great. I'm going to comment on it and speak to the person that I know and to John. If he posts with somebody that I don't know, right, I'm going to say, well, if John knows him, then I should probably look him up or her up, right? So I'll click on their profile, I'll look at it, dissect it a little bit. Who does that person also know that I may not know? Or who is that person connected to that I'm connected to? So my brain is going through all of this process of who do I need to know through these relationships that I already have. And the only difference between me and anybody else is I'm actually taking the time to send that person a message. And I took that 30 seconds to go down the wormhole of who are these connections that I need to know and how do I build the bridge between them. And then I'm actually taking the action and doing it. Right. So it's not rocket science, but it's taking the time to slow down and understand that, yes, I need to produce content. Yes, I need to have visibility, because here's the other side of that, right? When I create that relationship with that person through name dropping someone else, they're going to come to my profile and be like, who is this girl? Before they respond to my message. So my content has to speak to that, right? This is also why I said what I said at the very beginning. It's not just about content and it's not just about prospecting, meaning you can't just be focused on being a social, or like you can't just be focused on hiring a social media coach, because if the social media coach doesn't have a conversion strategy, you're going to sit on the hamster wheel of content creation, right? So you have to have somebody that can teach you how to produce content that forms and builds the connections that then become the foundation of how you prospect. They go hand in hand. And so I know I went on a tangent there, John, but I'm sure you have some thoughts there. But it's important that you understand it's not rocket science, but it requires taking the slow down to look at your platform differently and not chase the vanity aspect of it, because that's so easy to get sucked into. I want to know that I'm waking up every single day to multiple messages in my inbox. That's what I want to know.
Hey, if you're here, it's because you understand that the world is changing at an alarming rate, and you understand that big data is going to dominate as we move forward. Either you're going to use it to grow your market share, or somebody's going to use it against you to grow theirs. If you want to dig a little bit deeper here, take a look at your own business, figure out and identify some key constraints, maybe some things that you could do a little bit differently to grow a little faster. Here's what I can tell you. After 27 years of doing this, helping well over 1,000 loan officers earn hundreds of millions of dollars of commissions, there are a couple of key constraints inside of your business. I don't know what they are right now. I just know that they exist. So if you're curious about this, let's get on a strategy call. Take 20, 30 minutes. You will walk away with one or two actionable items that you can do more business as you move forward. There'll be a link someplace here on the page. I look forward to personally meeting you. Yeah, this has been something for me that I've become very I guess, very like in tune with the way that it works. And I know I've made I've introduced you to a couple of people, and that was my exact lead in. I don't know how you two don't know each other, but you don't. And right. And I'm sure that those have turned into some decent conversations, which at least that's my hope.
I'm having one of them this afternoon, so I'll let you know.
Awesome. Well, hopefully it turns into something because, right, if we all kind of scratch each other's backs, it works well and you can build a stronger community and it also gets rid of the junk. And I like to think that this has probably been going on since like, right, Jesus walked around with these 12 dudes and they'd be like, oh, who was that guy Paul was talking to over there? Hey, I know you know Paul and Jesus. My name's Saul. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk to you about, and right, and they were probably networking back then. We just don't see it in the Gospels, but I bet it happened the exact same way. We just have better and newer tools, right? And books have been written like the 6 degrees of separation. Mm-hmm. If you go on LinkedIn and start looking at your 2nd and 3rd degree connections, like I'm connected to all kinds of people. I'm a 1st degree connection to Jocko Willink. How about that? So like there's people out there, not that he would know, but, I know, and I think it's kind of cool, but, so there's just a lot of stuff out there and taking it to that next little thing. How can you be very intentional about these things? And I just want to kind of ask you something here. I tell people all the time, they're like, John, why should I start social media? I'm not going to get anywhere with it. And you just mentioned something, and I tell people this all the time. You can have a great relationship with your agent. Your agent gives your name to somebody. The first thing that those clients do today, and I'm in my 50s and I do this, so I would have to think that anybody younger than me is going to do it. The first thing that I do when giving them, when I get a referral, I go and Google them.
Yep.
I want to see what their Instagram looks like. I want to see what their Facebook looks like. Are they on LinkedIn? Are they doing anything? Like that's a litmus test that I now run before I ever call them for the referral. Maybe a mechanic or a guy that's going to mow my lawn. I might not go and look at the pictures of how he mows lawns, but I might look at Yelp to see if they have negative reviews. Yeah. So is that like something that goes, is that a top priority in your world, just to have something there for, even if you're not doing any of the social selling stuff, just to have it there as kind of a backbone for somebody to go and look?
Oh, I mean, 1,000%. And I kind of alluded to that, right? Like you have to have really good content. And I am constantly, relentlessly on the pursuit of perfection there, in the sense of my goal is always to have really, really quality content. And just to be clear, right? Quality content doesn't necessarily mean that I have the fanciest video or the fanciest camera, right? That's doing my video content. Because back in the day when I started doing all of this, my camera was shit. Like it was awful, right? It was not good. And that is okay. But now when I look at my content from 2014 to today, like the video I posted yesterday, this is a perfect example, John. The video I posted yesterday was probably the best video I've ever recorded on my own. Meaning the words that were in the video, what I was saying in the video, how I articulated it. It was so perfect. I've been working my tail off on my messaging and understanding how to really identify very clearly a social media coach versus a social media prospecting coach, and why I fall into the prospecting category. I can do all of the things that a social media coach can teach you, but I don't stop there. That's the difference, right? But what I'm saying and where I'm going with that is that video on Instagram only got like 375 views as of this morning, and I posted it yesterday. But I could very easily be like, oh, well, that video failed. That video didn't do very good. But here's the thing about that. That same exact video, both on Instagram and on LinkedIn, 5, 6 likes on LinkedIn, cool, whatever. But 3 of the 5 people that commented on it are all people who I have, or I'm in conversation with, building an opportunity or building business with currently, right? All of them are SVPs or large people at different mortgage companies that I now have influence with. And I think I crossed 1,000 profile views in the last 7 days on LinkedIn this morning. And I'm like, woo, cool. But I won in my mind. Like that was gold, not just because the video messaging itself was really good, but because when I delivered that message in that video, that 90 seconds, I am so confident in what that message is. I'm so just affirmed in my own head of that is exactly what Michelle does. That is super, super clear and differentiating myself. And guess what? The quality of it, meaning like the video itself, Yeah, it was a little better because I used my Sony ZV-1 and I put it on a freaking $35 tripod that I got on Amazon and I recorded it that way. So I say all of this to you to say, John, that it's this constant pursuit of perfection, but also not being afraid to show up without it in the process, right? Because I'm not gonna ever be perfect. I'm never gonna have a videographer following me around 24/7. That's just not me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. Right now, do I want to have one at a big speaking event to make sure that we get some good footage of me speaking? Yeah, for sure. But why? Right? Because that then creates another opportunity for me, more so than it creates virality for me. Right? Like, cool, I have a really killer speaking reel that got 1 million views. That doesn't actually make me money. Like, so yes, I care about my content and yes, I put time and effort just like anybody else, but I don't stop there and I don't get married to the fact that it's not pristine every single time. I do get married to the fact that I want to continue to grow and get better in that category while I'm also still working on this other part of the funnel. But that's where I think people fail is they're so focused on the content side and they're unwilling or just afraid to show up in their current state. And then they stop. They get paralyzed there, right? So they'll post whatever they are okay with, and then they'll stop and they won't do any of the prospecting side, which is where I really come in because they're like, oh, well, my content's not that good or my videos aren't that good. And they almost like make excuses in their mind. I hope I'm making sense.
No, you're making perfect sense, Michelle. It's at the end of the day, we all have one of two things. When you go to bed tonight, you either have some results or some excuses. There is no, right? You don't stand still because every day we're one step closer to dying. So, right. If my death is inevitable and it's going to happen and I don't take action today, I'm actually further behind than the other way. And with social media or anything, the biggest thing that holds people back is it's between their ears, right? It's the fear of what will people think about me? And I know when I go to the bank and I deposit a check or they don't ask me, was this off of a good social media post that was very highly curated? Or did you do it on free, with your CapCut app and your captions weren't necessarily spelt right and there was some weird punctuation and it wasn't perfect, but it was authentic. Like they don't ask any of those questions. They don't really give a shit. And one thing that I can tell you for sure, I learned how to do a lot of my own video editing. And I use a thing called Descript, and you go through and you edit it and you remove your filler words and spaces. And believe it or not, after you've removed the word 74 times from your video over a 2-minute window, you're like, maybe I say too much. Or I go back and watch my podcast and it drives me bananas listening to the way I talk and the way I say things because I feel like I'm a lot smarter than what I sound like to myself. And so, but you do make little incremental improvements every single time. You get slightly better. And anybody that's out there that wants to be doing this business or any business, if you still want to be in the game in 5 years, it's about getting incrementally better today to set yourself up to win in 5 years. If you want to be married in 5 years to your spouse, do something nice today to make your relationship better. And I bet you'll be in a better spot in 5 years. Just going to go out on a limb. Maybe don't nag about the sock that was left next to the couch. Just pick it up. And I need to take my own advice on this more so than anyone, but incrementally, we're a product of the things that we do every day and just be very cognizant of going to bed with a larger list of accomplishments than regrets. And all the stuff that you say there, I love all that, right? You got to get out there and it's not your best, but every time you get a little more clarity, it sounds a little better. And I would probably never say never on the somebody following you around with a camera, because I bet if we go back 15 years ago, you were never doing this. Probably would have said, no, that's not me. I'm not a podcasting person. I'm not speaking on stages. I'm just out there swimming a lot of laps in a pool. You
never know, never say never, I guess, in that sense for sure. But, the thing for me, and this is a fun hack for me as a speaker, right? And in 2022, I started speaking officially, making that a goal to actually do more of. 2023, that really grew. 2024 was by far my biggest year. And then 2025 is even bigger already slated for than 2024 was. But what that means to me, right, is I have to keep getting better at the little things that help me deliver and articulate my message. So one of the things that I've been doing actually lately is going live on Instagram on purpose, right? As opposed to creating a pre-record. Pre-records are super important. I teach that as part of my social strategy for my clients. Because again, in my world, you got a content phase, you got the prospecting phase, and then you got the flywheel phase, which is phase 3. Anyone who's ever read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, and have heard of the flywheel concept, but that is phase 3 of my world, right? So content first, prospecting second, flywheel third. That's not the point of my message. So, but knowing I was going to be speaking more and knowing that that was a goal, and I won't give all of the goodies away right now, but I have a very, very big project that will be launching in June that I have a keynote that I get to do on in June. And I get another opportunity to do it 2 additional times, one in August, one in October. And all 3 of those keynotes for me, I'm like, I can't mess this up. Like, this is my life that's about to come out on paper, literally. Hopefully you guys catch my drift as far as what that means. But the point of that is going live on Instagram during this process of getting ready and preparing for speaking more actually created a better speaker in me, because I said, I got and figured out where I needed to pause and take more of a breath, because I would look back at it and realize, 1, I was either talking too fast or 2, I was really not articulating my message well. And if I wasn't articulating my message well, it's probably because I was trying to go too quickly or I was nervous. So just doing it more and more and more made that go away. I naturally found myself taking a deep breath in the middle of the video without being worried that there was pause, because pause is good. And then in addition to that, here's an important one. This is probably the most important of all of that point. It taught me how to think on my feet, because what happens in a keynote, John, you've given them, right? What happens in a keynote? You get stuck sometimes and you're like, crap, I forgot what I was about to say, or what I pre-recorded in my mind or rehearsed in my mind 77 times. I can't remember right now. And that happens. And that will happen to the best of the best speakers. And I personally know several of the ones that are probably the best speakers in the mortgage world. I had lunch with Renee Rodriguez very recently. Cindy Urban's one of my closest confidants who travels the country speaking on some of the biggest stages that there are. And those 2 people, they rehearse, they practice their keynotes, but guess what? Both of them will tell you that almost every single keynote they do or they deliver, there's an oops, oh crap, I forgot moment in the middle of it. And what happens there is you have to be able to think on your feet. So for me to be able to go live on Instagram all the time and push myself through that challenge, I can now think on my feet and find ways to create connections where otherwise I would have been like, I'm stuck. Right. And so that's a huge win for me in the speaking side of things. But I think I want to bring us back full circle, John. I know I went on a tangent there. I know we both did, but it felt really important to do that. But here's the biggest thing I'll say, and I really just want to make this super clear. Having a posting strategy is important, right? It isn't just about posting though, because if you're positioning yourself correctly, you're creating opportunity out of what you're posting by having a conversion strategy for it, right? Because if you don't have a conversion strategy, but you have a killer posting strategy, your content's just noise. But if your strategy revolves around actually creating one-to-one communication, sending DMs, creating leverage, doing what we've been talking about, then you're actually going to make money off of the effort you're putting into social. And you're going to make way more money than you ever would if you're only focused on, hey, I want to just get virality or go have 1 million views on something. So if your strategy revolves around chasing trends instead of the real strategic conversations, very intentionally choosing who you're sending messages to, just flat out, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people do it wrong. And a lot of people just tell them you need to go and do it. Oh, just start posting. Be consistent. Just do it. It sounds like a Nike commercial.
Mhm.
But by the same token, if you're doing it without a plan, you might very well be wasting your time. And, you know, speaking on stage, I've seen people that were fantastic speakers once they kind of stopped caring or attained a certain level, right? They got to be a CEO. They no longer practiced. Their presentations became crap. Some of the best speakers I knew at one point, 4 years later, they elevated to a title where they no longer cared. They just thought they could wing it. And you could totally tell. The same guys like Joe Rogan will practice their skit a million times before, not a million, a lot
A
of
lot of time.
times before they go and record their comedy special. And they will have tested that out against the live audience so many times that it becomes flawless. And we could all do that. And I do a lot of sales coaching inside of companies where we listen to call reviews. If you're a mortgage person and you don't have the first 30 seconds of every call you make down to something that's a science, you know the words, how fast to move, the pauses, where to enunciate, what not to. That's like a comedian that didn't rehearse that gets paid to make people laugh. You're just getting hung up on. So same thing. You've got to practice at your craft if you want to be good. I got a couple of questions here. We've been going for a little bit. I try to be cognizant of your time as well. A thing for you, and we'll talk about if anybody wants to, kind of you've got something established, you want to take your business to the next level inside of the social media world. Like we'll get Michelle's information for you, how you can reach out to her. Sounds like she likes to take business calls. She likes to have, leads of people coming in. But for somebody maybe that's just starting out, or maybe they're not comfortable, they don't want to call you yet. Because right, we're all afraid to get sold. We hate to be sold.
Yep.
What would be like the biggest mistake you see kind of just people making across the board? And maybe even if you can look into the minds of the people that you actually coach, what were the biggest mistakes they were making 6 months before they kind of got the nerve up to actually call and reach out and like raise their hand and say, I need help? Because there's probably some telltale signs.
Oh, there is so many.
Well,
Yeah. The biggest one I can tell you that will make the biggest impact for every single one of you, if you're in that boat that John just described, is you have to be willing to show up authentically. And that doesn't mean your face all the time. It does mean you have to use your face though, because your face is your brand, right? Your face, in theory, I shouldn't say is your brand, but your face is an important part of your brand. But you're not willing to be vulnerable, right? I did a keynote in Orlando in early January. And after I actually had to go right after a very critically acclaimed speaker, somebody that does a lot of speaking. And I was kind of nervous about it in the beginning. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to just go do me. And I'm really glad that I did. And I'm really glad that I had that confidence, because after I was done and I got off stage, I said, I'm going to hang out for most of the rest of the day. I'm going to go out by the bathrooms in the lobby. If you guys want to come hang out and talk to me, ask me questions, please feel free to do so. And why I'm saying that to you is several people that came out and talked to me. I can think of 5 right now off the top of my head. I still remember their name, every single one of them, because it was so impactful for me. All 5 of them have said, I've heard so many people speak on social. I've heard so many people talk about video content. But the one thing I really heard about from you, Michelle, is you are so vulnerable, but in a way that makes you super, super relatable, where other people are not willing to share that, right? Meaning it almost made them feel like in the audience that I was talking directly at that person. That's how they described it to me. And that was really affirming. But what I can say there is the thing you're doing wrong, the thing that you can fix the quickest and that will make the biggest impact the fastest. You have to add your passions and you have to add your life to your content, right? And life doesn't just mean here's a cute picture of me and my husband on date night. Life means, hey, I'm having a good day. I'm having a bad day. Hey, I'm having this happen, right? Yesterday, I don't know when this is airing, but I'll just say yesterday for me, my son was home from school. Okay. Any working parent that has a young child that has to stay home with them, you understand the struggle of how the heck am I going to get everything done that I have to get done? And on top of it, he's home from school because he's sick. So what does that mean? He wants to be attached to mom like a koala bear the entire day, right? So how does mom get anything done? Well, I had a moment of reprieve where he ended up napping for 3 hours. Thank you, Jesus, for that one, right? To be able to get a lot done. But more importantly, there was a moment of calm in the morning. I was sitting having a cup of coffee, making breakfast, and he was in the living room sitting on our carpet in the center in between our couches playing. And I took a picture really fast because I was like, that's probably the only moment of calm I'm going to have all day. Right. And this is at like 7:45 in the morning. And I posted it on Instagram and on Facebook. And I just said, to all of my working parents out there who are going through this struggle right now because everyone and their mom is sick on this planet at the moment. You guys have felt what I'm feeling. You guys have gone through this experience, and guess what? We're going to be okay. right? We're going to get to the other side of it. The day's going to end. My husband's going to get home eventually around 3 p.m. and I'm going to have some reprieve. And guess what? That might mean I have to work a little later tonight because I got to catch up on all the stuff I couldn't get done. But we made it. We did it. Right. And my point in sharing that story is how relatable is that to every single one of us who are working parents that happen to work from home? And that's what you need to make sure is involved in your content, right? So not just your life, but your passions too. What do you like doing outside of work? I had a really, really cool call yesterday with someone who's really into archaeology. I have clients that are doing fun series about things like wine and cigars. I have one that's doing one on bourbon. I have a girl that's doing one on crocheting right now. I have a loan officer that I'm working with in Dallas that is doing one on red wine and the different ways to pair wine with food and how you combine that and create an analogy between that and a pain point that you're dealing with for your ideal client or whoever your ideal realtor partners might be. But here's the thing and why I'm saying that, and I'm going to end here. If you include your life and if you include your passions into your content in a strategic way, right? What happens is you actually have fun. You actually want to do the content. You actually want to make the video. It all of a sudden feels a lot less hard. You don't feel like you're climbing Mount Everest to get on camera for 90 seconds. It's something you want to do. And if we can do nothing, but John and I, if you and I can do nothing but support enough of you who are listening to this to say, just do something that makes you happy on video, and all of a sudden it will get easier and easier and easier to do in the future. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, life is not a keynote, yet sometimes our social, we try to make it a keynote. I like to, this sounds a little bit weird, but I used to be the guy that would get fired up like I had a captive audience that had to listen to my 3-minute video. I now in my mind most of the time, and this will sound a little bit weird, but I do also talk about, as part of my coaching, I like to help people get their poop in a group to move forward. I like to envision when I'm making a video that somebody's probably watching that while sitting on the pot, right? They're scrolling through and I have that's where they're watching. I need to be in their world right then and there. They can scroll right past me. And if it's not authentic and real, they're going to meet me at some point. Right. And if they don't get what they're going to get on the other side, I mean, I have deer horns and stuff. I kind of am what I am. And I've realized at this point, if you try and fake it and you're not authentic and you're not sharing about they're going to find out about it anyways. And then they're not going to do business with you. So just go into it pretty transparent, say, hey, world, this is what I am. If you like it and you want more, here's how you can get a hold of me. So I think that's awesome. And great advice. And the only thing that I kind of will wrap it up here, but if you guys have questions for Michelle and you're maybe looking at taking your strategy to another level to get things, like I'll say it again, to get your poop in a group with regards to your social selling, how you're doing things there, we'll include it here in the show notes someplace. This is going to be on, Apple Music, Spotify. It'll be all over the place, but mostly how you're probably going to hear about this has nothing to do with those ways. You're going to hear about it because you're going to see it in my feed on my social media, talking about a great conversation I had with Michelle. And you're going to see this through my social media, not any of the massive things out there. She's a real person that can definitely help. And then if you're looking at growing your mortgage business, or maybe you're stuck, you're frustrated, you don't know what to do next. The one thing that I've found more than anything, most people are actually trying to do too many things without a clear roadmap of where they're going. So they sit there and they tinker on 22 different things, maybe the equivalent of going out and trying to get a lot of likes. They don't have a clear strategy of where they're trying to go. And if your strategy is to actually close more loans and do more business, maybe working less hours, and you want to see about figuring out what are those key constraints inside of your business, everybody's business has key constraints. I've just been doing this for 27 years and I'm good at identifying them inside of the mortgage space. Michelle has been doing a lot of social media. I would say she is going to be a much better resource to identify your social media selling constraints than I ever would be. But feel free to reach out to me, reach out to her, identify your key constraints, and then throw everything that you have into clearing that one. And one guarantee I will make of you, when you fix the key constraint in your life, you will not be short of a next new key constraint that's holding you back. There's always going to be the next one. And through life, you just improve as many of them as you can before you die. You probably live a pretty decent life. So, Michelle, you got any other, like, you want to plug something? I know you got big things coming up in the summer, but I don't even know what they are. You just told me
Yeah.
that. Any other words of wisdom or ways that they can get a hold of you? Instagram, LinkedIn,
Yeah,
anything at all?
Instagram and LinkedIn are definitely the best places. Like I was saying earlier, I'm a lot more active on LinkedIn than I've really ever been. But Instagram is still always going to be my platform of choice. So for sure, DM me, send me a message, tell me that you heard me on this episode with John, and I would love to know, because then I can tell you, John, that somebody reached out about it, which is always fun. But the biggest thing, I'll leave you with is we have to look beyond likes, we have to look beyond followers, and we really have to start understanding that social media prospecting is the future of sales. And whether you like that or not, we have to adapt, and we have to understand that we have to be getting into the social realm with an actual conversion strategy, not just a content strategy. Because here's the reality, and I'll say this and kind of hammer it home: audience size does not equal revenue, right? You don't need more likes, you need more clients. That's what I'll say there. Now, the big things I have coming up, I have a group coaching program that's launching April 1st. I really primarily focus on private coaching. That's always been my bread and butter. That's really where I prefer to live as far as, what I'm doing. But I do have a lot of people who have very eagerly requested having access to a group coaching program where they can spend time with me in a group setting that's a little bit cheaper than doing the private coaching side of things. So it's a little bit more attainable for some people right now. And so I'm just listening to the audience and giving them that, but it will be ready by April 1st for sure. And then if you mention this podcast, I'll give you guys a discount for that if you want to when you reach out. And then the other really big thing, this is my super, super passion project that I'm just so wildly proud of. But I'm writing a book, and it will be done by June 1st. And that is where most of, the later half of the summer and into the fall, that's where all of those keynotes really come into play. And so for me, the book is not just I wrote a book. It's literally my life in a book. So I think that it's designed to really motivate people. It's designed to be something that other people can listen to it and read and say, wow, me too. But also, more importantly, it's designed to get your ass in gear and figure out that the only person between you and where you want to be is you. That's it.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Get out there, support her. It's been great getting to know you. I feel like I know you more well than I should based on the time that we've known each other. But I have gotten to a point in my life where I love cheering people on, and I see that they're doing things. Years ago, I probably had some ego and stuff and would have you hated to see other people get ahead. But the fact that you're writing a book, doing all these things, you don't know me that well, but I like to tell people that I'm proud of them. I think it's awesome. And we don't hear enough in our world that people are proud of you or they admire your accomplishments. So kudos to you. Thank you for being here. And look her up. Everything will be in the show notes. It's Michelle Berman. Are you hyphenated on your social?
I am, yeah.
I don't know.
It's Michelle Berman-Michael on social. My married name is Michelle Michael, but I actually have left Berman in on all socials because that is my maiden name, and that is what my company name is named after. So it just makes it easier for people to find me.
And Michael is Mikel.
Yep.
So we'll get you some links. We'll find it. But Michelle, I truly appreciate this. Thank you. And look forward to doing more stuff with you. If you're still here and you're watching this, you're probably getting something from our content. If so, maybe or I'm sure someone else that could also benefit. So if you could do us a solid, forward this, share it with your friends, other people that are like-minded that want help with simple solutions to grow their business. And if you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive someplace on here, there is a place to schedule a call with us to talk about your business and how we can grow it together. Look forward to hearing from you. Again, thank you for being here. Please do share.